Story 1. My brother was the golden child, the youngest and only boy my mother was desperate to have. Honestly, he is great, respectful, kind, and happy. He just got married, and my mother hates his wife. Now, after some comments she really cannot take back, my mother is low contact with my brother, and it is driving her absolutely insane. Story 2. I have a late-in-life miracle baby cousin who has had an interesting experience. He comes from a wealthy family and was a long-awaited baby. From the age of 3, he was given top-of-the-line consoles and computers, a bedroom, and a playroom filled with toys. By the time he started preschool, his parents had to ask everyone to stop sending him toys as gifts because he was given a gift every time they went anywhere. His mother was unable to say no to him. Every trip to the shoe shop or the supermarket resulted in a new toy. He never had to do anything he did not want to do. There were no chores or homework. When he wanted to stay up all night playing World of Warcraft and sleep through the school day because he did not feel well, that was allowed. His parents spent money on anything he showed interest in. He played a snowboarding video game for a while, so they bought him full skiing and snowboarding gear, and took several trips to the slopes, where he stayed in the lodge playing video games on his laptop. They provided him with everything needed for martial arts, golf, musical instruments, and more. He believed he was destined to be a professional gamer, so he did not bother with anything else. Gaming was his ticket to fame and glory. How did this turn out? Turns out that if you live like this through most of your teenage years, you fail out of school at 16, no matter how smart your mother thinks you are. He is 25 now, still living at home, and to the best of my knowledge, he has not completed his high school diploma or any equivalent studies. He has never held a job or completed any apprenticeships or placements arranged by his parents over the years. His mother still does everything for him, but he is unhappy. He is distraught. He lacks knowledge and skills. He cannot do anything. He has no friends. Everyone he was friendly with went to university, got jobs, started relationships, or traveled the world. They are living their adult lives while he remains at home with his mother making his lunch every day. Story 3. My brother, the golden child, is now a 50-year-old unemployed alcoholic. He never finished high school but was considered much smarter and better looking than the other 4 of us. My mother praised him excessively, so he never achieved anything because he never thought he had to try. This completely poisoned his life. Story 4. My sister became an alcoholic and a drug addict. I think the moment that really affected my mom was when her mother died. She gave me nothing and gave my sister her choice of the family jewelry because that kind of stuff means something to your sister. My sister pawned it all, then ran off to be homeless so she could indulge her addiction without criticism. She has been in and out of prison for the last decade, which was the only time we knew for sure she was alive. But now she is clean. It will be different this time, my mother assures me, while sending her money and valuables like a laptop and brand new smartphone. I am sure that will not end well. Story 5. My brother and I have a running theory that he is my mother's favorite and I am my father's favorite. Being my father's favorite just meant he spent a couple more minutes talking to me while growing up and coached my softball team. But being my mother's favorite meant my brother got whatever he wanted. Up until high school, all I ever wanted was to go to Disney World, but my parents either never wanted to or said we did not have money. I remember saving aluminum cans to recycle them to try to earn money so we could go. My brother, who is a few years younger, never cared about going. He was happy just being holed up in his room playing video games. Never once did he say he wanted to go too. I never did end up going to Disney World, but right after my brother graduated high school, they called me to tell me they were taking him to Disney World as a graduation gift because that is all he ever wanted as a child. They were even flying there, and flying in an airplane was also something I wanted to do as a kid and never got to do. By the way, they did not invite me on this trip. I was around 20 at the time. They were just calling to tell me they were going. They ended up staying a whole week there. When they got back, I asked how it went and they said he was miserable the whole time, complained about the heat, and just wanted to stay inside the hotel and play video games. This was over 15 years ago now, and a couple of years ago I finally worked up the courage to tell my mother how that made me feel, that I never got to go but he did. She then claimed that I never told her I wanted to go, which is not true. When I denied that and said I told her multiple times, she tried to claim that I was invited on their trip too, but I told her I did not want to go, which is also not true. Story 6. My sister was the golden child. She also has mental health issues and could function as a perfectly regular adult if she had not been coddled so much. My mom has passed away, but she lived with my dad. Recently, my sister tried to burn his house down, sold his truck, stole all of his money, and physically assaulted him. I live out of state, so I contacted Adult Protective Services about her behavior. I called my dad and advised him to let them help. He just told me, well, maybe you're wrong, and told the very kind Adult Protective Services representative that everything was fine. I washed my hands of it. I am expecting a call in the next few years letting me know that she has harmed him. The whole family just turns a blind eye to everything she does. We used to be a really close-knit lower middle-class family. Now everyone is bankrupt and struggling with addiction. I wish I could say I was being dramatic when I say every instance of these issues can be traced back to my sister. I got out of there and will never go back. Story 7. Background. My biological grandfather died when my mother and oldest uncle were small children. My grandmother was only 18 years old at the time and remarried quickly. Her new husband was my grandfather's cousin and was praised for marrying a widow with children. Soon their son, Mark, was born. While my mother and her full brother always had to do chores, work at their relatives' farm during holidays, and follow my step-grandfather's strict rules, Mark was spoiled. He never had to work, was driven to school, and always got away with everything. My mother and uncle were always blamed whenever Mark did something wrong. Even when Mark was found sharing a bed with a 14-year-old at age 25, they blamed the girl instead of him. Years went on and eventually, he was arrested while under the influence of several drugs. My grandparents blamed the bar where Mark had been partying that evening. They believed someone must have slipped drugs into his drink because their son would never do anything wrong. The worst part was that Mark once again got away without consequences. Mark married his now ex-wife because he got her pregnant at 17 while he was 27. The girl came from a rather unsavory family, and they used an old loophole in local regulations to allow the wedding. They had a turbulent relationship that produced 3 children. 10 years ago, his ex-wife filed for divorce because Mark did not take care of the children and she wanted a fresh start. My 3 cousins were left at my grandparents' house. Aftermath. My aging grandparents, both 74, have had to move on from Mark. He was arrested during a raid on a drug-dealing ring and was sentenced to 13 years in prison. However, my grandparents did not learn from this experience and continued to pick favorites. His first child has gone no contact with him and my grandparents after being made the new maid. She is now living in her college dorm and is building a life for herself. His second child became the new golden child. He still lives with my grandparents and refuses to attend school. He is 20 years old with no high school diploma, does nothing but play games, party, uses drugs daily, mostly cannabis with occasional other substances, and openly abuses my grandparents and their blind devotion. The third child had to beg his mother to take him in. My grandparents made several weak excuses for why he alone had to leave their home. He is 17 years old and knows his mother will kick him out as soon as he turns 18. She does not want to be reminded of her old life with Mark and only does the bare minimum for her child. In summary, no lessons were learned, and the same mistakes are being repeated with the new generation, their grandchildren. Story 8. My mother was a narcissist and delusional. She made my sister the adult of the family by the time she was 12. She had to protect her and listen to all of her crazy stories about how everyone was out to get her. But my sister could do no wrong. She was the perfect golden child of the family. She never connected the dots that my mother was seriously mentally ill. When my mother died, my sister had a nervous breakdown once all the ongoing stress was released. She decided she had lead poisoning from paint and was allergic to everything on earth. She reached the point where all she would eat was baby food and experienced hysterical blindness. She went to 52 different doctors and finally found some quack who charged her over $100,000 for chelation. My mother had essentially made her a mini-me, and she was lost. Story 9. My sibling is genuinely successful, a kind and brilliant man. He has achieved every kind of success a person could. I was able to develop a relationship with him only after our parents passed away. He has been nurtured and grown to be wonderful. I love him and he loves me. He tells me I am better than I think I am, but I doubt him. It has taken 50 years to get here. Story 10. Mine is the extreme version. Basically, I am the byproduct of my mom's failed second marriage. She filed for divorce right after I was born, and honestly, she had no business being a mom because she was very mentally ill, though there was no official diagnosis. My grandparents even tried to get her to give up custody so they could adopt me. She married a third husband, who later became her fifth. He was my stepdad my whole life, and I didn't know he wasn't my biological dad until they briefly divorced, and my mom screamed at me over it. They had a son. My mom devoted everything to my brother and tried to be accepted into my stepdad's family. The catch was that none of them saw me as anything more than unwanted leftovers from her past. They never wanted me around and made it very clear I was not wanted. This escalated into my mom neglecting me, which then turned into her physically and mentally abusing me. This opened the door for my stepdad to get away with physically abusing me too. I was made to clean the whole house for them, including their bedrooms and bathrooms. Meanwhile, my little brother was being raised like a prince. His paternal family showered him with gifts and trips. At home, he was never punished or yelled at. My parents never said no to him if he wanted something. He watched how I was treated and started to join in. At first, it was lying to get me in trouble, stealing my things and lying to keep them, or breaking my stuff to upset me. Eventually, he grew bigger than me and started hitting me too. During this time, I was not allowed birthday parties or friends. I was not given regular medical care or dental visits. By junior high, my mom had stopped buying me clothes or even a toothbrush. I wore hand-me-down clothes from friends. This situation backfired quickly on my parents. My brother thought he was the center of the universe and became violent when he did not get his way. He got into drinking and drugs by junior high, started skipping school, and was arrested for assault and drugs. My parents went deep into debt paying his court fees while continuing to buy him whatever he wanted. I joined the military and got as far away as I could. My brother did not. He was a super senior just to get his diploma and lived with my parents, partying and draining their bank accounts well into his 20s. They lost their original house to debt and rented a place for a while. Without anyone to clean up after them, they were eventually kicked out for being disgusting. My brother moved hundreds of miles away seeking greener pastures but still had my parents paying his bills. He is almost 40 now, and that support stopped when my mom died. My stepdad can no longer afford anything. He is now alone, hundreds of miles from the only kid he ever cared about, with no one to help take care of him. Meanwhile, I married a great man 20 years ago and have 2 wonderful kids. We have our own home far away from that mess. I have been in therapy for a few years working through the childhood trauma, and I am doing well. Story 11. I'll let you know once it happens. My parents see my brother as their golden child, and despite all his mistakes, they still have not changed their minds. My brother is 33, failed out of college twice, and can't hold a menial job for more than a few months at a time. He sleeps all day, does not help around the house, and lives in filth. 5. Parents have multiple homes, and my brother mostly lives alone in one of them. He trashes it and expects them to clean it up, which they do. They go to that home every month to clean and make sure he has enough food. He lives there for free. They pay the mortgage and the utilities and mostly leave him alone. He's stolen money from them and used it to travel internationally. He has no concept of money and believes it just appears in front of him because my parents pay for everything he needs. He spends their money recklessly because more money just appears instantly. He has no appreciation for how hard my parents work. To earn that money, my parents can't retire because he keeps spending. My mom has already told me that when they pass, my brother will inherit the majority of their estate because he needs it more. I'm the more responsible one, so I must not need the money as much. They won't be splitting it evenly between us. Don't get me wrong, my parents have helped me as well. I lived in one of their homes with my husband for 5 years while we saved money for our own home, but we paid rent and utilities. When we were finally in the process of buying a home, My brother decided he wanted to live in our rented house instead and tried to kick us out. When we went to the house to pack up our belongings because we were afraid he wouldn't let us back in, he tried to say it all belonged to him now. When I argued that everything in the house was bought with the hard-earned money from my husband and me, he argued back, "So what? You can just make more money and buy new stuff." Like I said, no understanding of the concept of money or a hard-earned dollar. I was 6 months pregnant at the time, and he made threats toward my unborn baby. We later found out it was because he was having a mental breakdown from refusing to take his medication, which my parents used as an excuse for why I should forgive him. He has never acted like he was in the wrong and has never apologized. I completely cut ties with him and disowned him as my brother, vowing never to allow him to have a relationship with my son. That was over 2 years ago. My mom has repeatedly overstepped my boundaries regarding this and has invited my brother to see my son on multiple occasions. I've already started rambling too much, but I've only begun to scratch the surface of all my brother's mistakes. I could write a book on everything he's done that my parents have overlooked. It's gotten to the point where I no longer care if they work themselves to the bone to support their golden child. He can have the entire inheritance for all I care. He's just going to spend it all in record time after they're no longer on this earth. They did this to themselves. Story 12. My sibling has become very irresponsible. They never do housework, refuse to pay rent if they can avoid it, do not clean up, leaving their living area cluttered, and just say they will hire a maid. They feel entitled to other people's belongings and always believe their feelings are the most important. They never admit to doing anything wrong, never apologize, and will cry if confronted. They have no friends because people do not want to waste time on this behavior. I am almost 10 years younger, and they mimic my behavior in public. When I confronted them, they blamed it on undiagnosed autism and many other excuses. It is exhausting for my parents, but my sibling has not and will not move out of their house. They cannot live independently because my parents did everything for them growing up. If they had homework, my parents did it. If they needed to sign up for college and financial aid, my parents handled it. All their cars were purchased by my parents. When bills were overdue, my parents paid them. My sibling is in her late 30s but has the mentality of a 15-year-old. Story 13. The golden child in my family was not a sibling but rather a cousin. My cousin is 3 to 4 years older than me. His parents were not great role models for various reasons, so he was in and out of foster care. My parents tried to adopt him. When I was 16, his parents left him at our door to live with us for several months. While he was with us, he seemed to do no wrong. He would verbally and physically assault me. He was using various drugs, among other issues. He never obtained a high school diploma. Throughout his life, he has blamed his childhood and everyone around him for everything that went wrong. Most of my extended family has cut him off completely, except for my dad. Most of us refuse to attend family events where he is invited because he is violent, angry, and drug addicted. He has tried to end my life. The last I heard, he was in prison and was viciously attacked to the point of hospitalization because he could not control his behavior. Story 14. I was the golden child, but not in the way you would expect. I was doted on because of my looks, and my mom would promote me to TV stations or modeling agencies with the hope of becoming famous and escaping poverty in the Philippines. This went on for years during my childhood. It backfired, and I am now a punk and tomboy. My sister resented me, so she focused on her studies to get my mom's attention. And guess what? Now she is the golden child. She has a good career, a great husband, and lots of money to spend. I live an incredibly simple life on my own terms, and she takes every opportunity to criticize what I do, claiming it might hurt our mom. Did I turn out troubled? Maybe. I stay home, use cannabis, play video games, and get tattoos. But I never want to hurt anyone. Ever. It is funny how reclaiming my life after years under scrutiny still causes problems for me. Story 15. The golden child and scapegoat situation in my family was interesting. I had 2 cousins who were siblings. One had severe attention deficit/hyperactivity disorder and often acted out. Their older sibling competed in dance competitions internationally and did very well in school, earning scholarships to a top school. The older child was the priority, with the parents investing in their success, while the younger child was constantly asked, "Why can't you be more like the perfect child?" The younger siblings struggled in high school but graduated. After graduation, they flourished. They got a construction job and worked their way up. Meanwhile, the older sibling graduated college, and it took them a year to find a job. Having never faced adversity, this took a mental toll on them, especially when they had to ask the younger sibling for help. All of us in the extended family could see this coming from a mile away. The favoritism even trickled down to the cousins. My grandmother knew I had also had trouble finding a job after college, but told me that my cousin was fragile about not finding a job, then ranted about how someone so perfect couldn't find one. Meanwhile, the child everyone yelled at all the time had been working continually since age 18 and became a homeowner in his late 20s. Story 16. Not me, but my mom. Her brother was the favored child. He could do no wrong, and my mom could do no right. When my mom had her first menstruation, her mother beat her because she was more of a woman than her. Most of the favoritism was shown by my grandmother. In the 1990s, her brother suddenly had to move from Florida back to Michigan. It turned out he had been caught molesting a severely underage girl from the neighborhood. His wife paid off the family to avoid going to court. My grandmother worked to keep it within the family, but we all knew because he had actually raped some of his cousins and even my mom when he was a teenager. My grandmother had a mental breakdown knowing her perfect son was not perfect. Even after that, she still preferred my uncle over my mom. Story 17. My brother is the favorite one because he has white skin and is more good-looking. Typical Asian behavior, if you must. I was also slow in development and, in middle school, tested my IQ to be 80, so they kind of see me as a shame. I am a very late bloomer. My grandparents and parents prefer him. This is about my grandparents being the more financially successful one while my brother struggles to find a job. I am responsible for putting meals on the table. It is somewhat their fault that he is overly spoiled and lazy. Now, they are very conscious of their bad treatment in my younger days, so they are careful not to offend me. Once, they pushed me to send my brother to college so he could get a degree and find a job since I do not have a degree. I told them they could start asking him to pay for their living expenses because I am not going to leave them homeless. I did so with my mother. She begged me to help her financially because she was left with a child by her new husband, and I closed the door on her. I honestly have zero attachment to them due to the abuse I experienced when I was young, including being locked in a room so I could get better. They are somewhat distant and afraid of me. I know they hate me, but they can never say it, and they remain civil around me. Anytime there is a disagreement, I tell them to get my brother to start supporting them. Mostly, there is no argument and they begrudgingly agree with everything I say, even if it goes against what they believe. Some may say this is financial abuse, but I am not abusing them. They are always free to leave. I have no obligation to take care of them, but that is what I do. If they cannot appreciate that, then they can always go to their more favored child. Story 18. He was arrested for assaulting a homeless person. It was not his first time assaulting a homeless person, just the first time a police officer witnessed it. He is a sociopath, but he is an excellent rock climber. That is all my parents have ever cared about this 40-year-old trust fund beneficiary. Story 19. My brother was the kindest and sweetest child. We all really adored him. I'm not surprised he was the golden child. He had such a kind and pure soul. He was the youngest and only boy, so he was really doted on. He fell into a deep depression after high school. He never really moved out of our mother's place, never finished school, and got his first job at 32. We all took responsibility for him, without realizing that he needed to take responsibility for himself. Our mother passed away, and while he has a lot of grief and things to learn about living as an adult, a weight has somehow been lifted. He is finally taking initiative in his life in ways he never thought were possible. It is clear that he was so coddled to the point of his decline. When I think about everything I have done in my 20s, I cannot imagine having spent it day in and day out playing video games in our childhood home. He still has a kind and pure soul. It will just take a lot of effort to bring it back out. Story 20. I'm adopted. My older brother is their biological child. They bought him 2 cars, paid for medical school, and bought him a house. He hasn't talked to my parents in a decade after his divorce. They have to talk to the ex-wife to see the grandkids. Guess how well that goes? I barely come around anymore for various reasons. Not saying they weren't great parents. Growing up, they were wonderful, but I was definitely the adopted brown kid. I went to get family photos once. The photographer called me Spot, and they just laughed. Story 21. My parents are divorced and remarried, so there are children from both sides. I have 3 brothers. Brother 1 is still my mother's golden child. They talk for several hours a day on the phone just to complain about people. He is an unsuccessful corporate worker who self-diagnoses everything, is an elitist but has no money due to a reasonable level of child support that he constantly complains about for his 3 kids. He hates his life, has a victim mentality, and wants to sue everyone and everything. He cries for hours, goes around in circles, demands support, but then ignores everything you say so he can continue being upset and placated. I stopped doing that when I was 25. I am 42 now. We have no relationship. Brother 1 is the oldest and was both my mother's and my father's golden child. Then my father remarried and had a child when we were adults with our own children. My youngest brother, brother 3, from my father and stepmother, is my father's new favorite. He is 18, has level 3 autism, and is a very good kid. Brother 1 is deeply upset that my father has changed his will to provide for brother 3 after his imminent death, and that his elder children, me and brother 1, will receive almost nothing. I am fine with this, as brother 3 will need lifelong care. Brother 1 is scheming to get some of that inheritance money. My stepfather's favorite is my younger brother, brother 2, who was spoiled, while I was parentified to care for him, including night feeds and all-day care at 13. I love him very much as he feels like my first baby, and he is a kind and intelligent person. However, with the love of my stepfather and mother came expectations. He has learning difficulties, but he is a highly gifted artist and musician. He taught himself to play 7 instruments, has recorded albums, and had a live launch at a bar with his band. My parents insisted he go to university for the most boring degree, the exact same one my older brother did, instead of taking a scholarship offered to a prestigious academic program in performing arts for music. He failed the first semester because he hated it, and a decade later still does not have a permanent job because he has no confidence and has worked in about 15 jobs during that time. He is also a stoner, but so am I. As for me, out of 4 children, I am the black sheep who is considered difficult by all 3 parents. I am the only girl. My mother hates me, but she pretends to be nice to everyone though she has sadistic tendencies. I will not take care of them in their old age. They can ask their favorite children. I feel guilt over this, but all 3 have been abusive in some form, resulting in me being disabled. I have borderline personality disorder, avoidance/restrictive food intake disorder, as well as other co-occurring disorders. Family does not make you family. I love my younger brothers and will always be there for them. Story 22. My ex-husband's brother is a useless person who makes a lot of money, treats his wife poorly, and does not help his mother. He did not visit his father when he was dying and barely took time off to help his mother afterward. At least he did not go into the arts. My ex has kept a large distance for years to maintain his sanity. Story 23. He turned out truly awful and is facing serious consequences in old age. He engaged in destruction of property, pathological lying, tormenting and bullying, rage fits, partying with zero rule adherence, driving under the influence, and coercing girls to the point they went to their parents crying. Then he cheated on his spouse with an infant child and had multiple incidents with the police. This behavior never stopped in adulthood. He also stole an absurd amount of money from my parents through fraud. The last incident happened many decades into this mess. He has gone almost consequence-free the whole time, indicating he has some trick for manipulating not just my parents. He should absolutely be facing legal consequences many times over, but he still isn't. Seeing him on a pedestal not just by my parents, but also getting away with blatantly criminal behavior is upsetting. He did horrible things to me, things they still don't believe or punished me for, which was and is a psychological double blow. I swear it's like I'm the only person who can see through his charm, and he's an outright moron. Sad to the point I feel bad for him. He's shallow, insecure, and truly unintelligent. He can't figure out how a basic budget works and is trapped in his own impulsivity. He really doesn't have any skills or talents other than manipulation, and aside from his child, has produced nothing of value his entire life. Story 24. Oh man, I could go on for days about this, but I'll try to condense it. My youngest sibling was heavily favored by my mother, who let him do almost anything he wanted, even if it meant playing games until his eyes were bloodshot and he had nosebleeds. He was asked to do the dishes once as a teenager, and cried so hard he almost vomited. He did not have to do the dishes after his tantrum. He was without a doubt the laziest person ever, but acted like he was the most hardworking and unappreciated person. For example, people got upset when he didn't feed animals as he was supposed to, lied about it, and caused those animals to die horribly from starvation. He believed he deserved to relax playing games for 18 hours. I struggled with school because we didn't have internet at home, so I could only complete schoolwork for an hour on a library computer. That was my reality for years because they didn't see the point of getting internet at home. After school ended, they got internet for my brother so he could play an online video game. Priorities, I guess. For job applications, he would barely write his name at the top while my mother filled out the rest in cursive. His work history was so non-existent that people he house sat for one day were used as references almost 15 years later. The same happened with schoolwork. My mother did his homework for him. He could do very little wrong in my mother's eyes. For example, when he pointed a loaded gun at my sister, who was holding my mother's grandchild, my mother looked away and said simply, "He has the right to defend himself," even though my sister was unarmed and not threatening. Needless to say, he found a girl from an extremely religious and abusive household who didn't know better. They both got involved with methamphetamine, had a baby immediately, and never took the baby to a hospital for anything. They stole formula, food, and diapers from my sister, who had also just had a baby. Yet, she was the one who got immediately kicked out of the house for demanding her baby supplies back. Now that he and his girlfriend are the last children in the house, the full extent of how inept and entitled he is becomes clear. There are no daughters left to cook, clean, and pay my parents' bills. So they told my brother, now a grown man-child who's been absolutely coddled his entire life, that he needs to start helping. He needs to clean his room and not throw used diapers between the wall and the bed. He needs to get a job before they lose the house. To which he responds by doing none of these things. Instead, he loses his mind, screams about how underappreciated he is, packs up his baby and barely legal girlfriend, and vanishes. He blocked my parents, and that's the last I've heard of him. I have no doubt he'll return eventually. I can't lie. I take some satisfaction thinking about my parents cleaning his nasty room and realizing how badly they failed as parents. Either that, or those dirty diapers are creating a terrible mess behind a closed door because, ultimately, my brother inherited his laziness from my parents. Either way, I hope I never see them again. Story 25. My brother was the golden child. However, my mom shot herself in the foot. He was less than 2 years old when I was born, and she always bragged about how, as soon as she got me home, she put me in his arms and told him he was the big brother and had to look after me and care for me. He took this very seriously, as a child does, and so while I was persona non grata, he still loved and looked out for me. When we realized her favoritism was not just coincidence or in our heads, we worked together to get around her behavior. We were as close as siblings can be. The only unconditional affection and acceptance we had was from each other. It was hard when he could not take the weight of her expectations anymore and started sabotaging himself. He is nearly 50 and still falls back into that cycle. I have my own struggles as well. It never ends. You just find ways to cope and try to stay vigilant so you do not slip. Story 26. My brother is the favored child, never obligated to do any house chores, never took any responsibilities, and any bad behavior was just laughed off. He did not turn out badly. However, my mother is now complaining that he does not help her at home. She has to do all the cleaning alone, and he does not know how to fill out administrative papers, so my mother has to do it for him. Story 27. My brother-in-law is still the golden child. He went to college, got into hard drugs, and failed out. Then he impregnated a woman, and everyone is stuck raising his daughter. Their unconditional favoritism toward him has given my wife a people-pleasing complex. Just this holiday season, he microdosed the entire week of Thanksgiving, leaving us responsible for his child. On Christmas Eve, while we were wrapping and assembling his daughter's gifts, and he was getting high upstairs, we had to listen to my wife's mother tell us how great her brother has been doing lately. Story 28. My brother is the favorite. He is my mother's special snowflake. So misunderstood. She used to worry he had no friends and no one understood him. Everyone understood he was unpleasant, possessive, rude, manipulative, cruel. He regularly physically abused me. Once, he hit me with a pool stick. He broke my possessions, stole them, took over my room, and demanded I sleep on a love seat. He verbally abused me. My mother said I was lucky because I was learning how to tolerate abuse. I ended up with a lot of therapy. She never told him no. He did what he wanted, and she would say, "Nothing I can do about it." He repeated ninth grade twice because he wouldn't go to school. He was put in alternative school. One class short of graduation, he decided not to finish. No general educational development certificate, because he doesn't think he should have to pay for it. No job, because he doesn't think he should have to work jobs that bore him. No relationships because he torments people until they cannot stand him. He has nothing. He is the type of person who spends more time figuring out how to avoid things he does not want to do, even when doing the task would be faster. One thing I will add is that if we were in school now, he would have an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis, probably more supports. Things might have been different. But I doubt it, because he would still believe he was never responsible for the ways he damaged his own life. Story 29. My brother grew up to be a malignant narcissist. My mother favored him and supported his bad behavior, giving him money and never holding him accountable for making good choices. He moved into the home my parents owned and was awful to live with, but she never allowed my father to kick him out. My mother's health declined over the last few years, and my father was her main caretaker until his dementia progressed too far, and he was placed in a long-term care home. This left my mother relying solely on my brother to take care of her. It lasted 6 months. She ended up falling and breaking her hip in October because, of course, he did nothing to help her. She died a month later in the hospital, alone and in pain. Story 30. In my family, the golden child turned out great. She is a hard worker, a loving mother to her amazing children, and genuinely one of my favorite people. We just had to work through some things, and now we get along famously. Story 31. My parents struggled with infertility and miscarriages before finally having my older brother. Their little miracle rainbow baby could do no wrong. My parents bailed him out of every situation he got himself into with absolutely no consequences. My mom's reasoning was he just tunes you out if you yell at him, so they never really disciplined him. Eventually, he bankrupted them. They gave him money to fix every problem, and then he got himself into another. He stole money from them. My dad co-signed for his truck, and my brother stopped paying the loan, which then fell to my parents. They got so behind, they almost lost their farm. And me, the other child, I fixed that for them. I got them out of their financial hole and made sure they didn't lose their farm, the farm they recently wrote into their will to my brother when they die. Story 32. I'm in a unique circumstance here, but for the vast majority of my life, I, now 24, was raised alongside my 3 youngest aunts, 41, 38, and 34 currently, in their parents', my grandparents' home. I see them as sisters more than anything. The 41-year-old is their golden child who can do no wrong. The 38-year-old is the black sheep, and the 34-year-old is in a weird middle place. I'm kind of just there. Due to my own parents' divorce, I was sent to live with my grandparents as a kid. I had to share the basement with the 38-year-old aunt, who was pregnant at the time. The 41-year-old had 2 children under age 2, both living in her childhood bedroom upstairs with her and her boyfriend, rent-free. The old nursery was nominally for her eldest baby, but they never used it. They had travel cribs in her bedroom for the babies. They even converted the family living room into a playroom for the kids. She was allowed to take over the entire house, but I was staunchly not allowed my own. bedroom as a little girl recently torn away from my old life to be introduced to this chaotic living situation. I was told not to mention my situation to Child Protective Services, too. Maybe it's unjustified or dramatic, but that created a deep mental wound I'm still working through. She only eventually moved out under heavy pressure from her parents when I was 14, when it was discovered she was pregnant again and had fully planned on birthing and raising this third child in her parents' home, still without paying rent. Nowadays, she's in her 40s, just had a fourth child while her oldest is about to be able to drive, and finally has a part-time job. She herself has never driven. In fact, my grandparents wake up around 7 a.m. every single morning and drive 3 towns away to drop off my grandmother to watch her baby, while my grandfather picks up her other children to take them to school. Then he drives her to her job, comes home for a few hours, and drives back to pick her up and take her home. They're both almost 75 years old, chauffeuring this grown woman to and from her part-time job like she's a 15-year-old at her first job, not a 40-something who still constantly uses her elderly grandparents as free childcare. That's not to mention how often they buy her family's entire monthly household goods or pay for repairs and bills around her and her husband's house. It's just insane. My grandparents are not perfect people, but good Lord, they deserve better than this. They just can't see how unhealthy their dynamic with her has been their whole lives, and they refuse to accept that they enable her as well. Story 33. Basically, everything that went wrong when I was a kid was entirely my fault, and my brother could do no wrong. Nothing really backfired. Being the lightning rod for every household issue motivated me to leave as soon as I could. Now, decades later, I am married to an amazing and beautiful woman. I have a wonderful child, a comfortable and engaging home life, and I work in an office with highly intelligent people. He lives with our parents. He turned 40 this year. We have never seen him with a girlfriend or boyfriend. He goes to work, plays video games, and sleeps. Story 34. Currently watching my significant other's family implode after 30 years of favoritism. It is not pretty. Hey parents, please do not have a super obvious favorite child. Story 35. The youngest and only male grandchild in the country was spoiled rotten by his mother, father, and all the aunts and uncles who only had daughters in a patriarchal culture. The parents convinced him he was a gift, gave him all the best brand name clothes and flashy cars, and he started believing it enough that he argued himself out of an excellent job in a very embarrassing one-way conflict with a new manager. This was at a global brand where people visit the facilities on international vacations, so it was a major setback in his career. The parents were very embarrassed, but this sobered him up enough to realize that their advice was flawed. He started listening to others more and became more independent. He gained enough self-confidence and awareness to marry someone very different and unknown to the family, which caused his parents to melt down. They were so used to having him under their control that they couldn't accept the competition and loss of control. They didn't realize they couldn't insult her and still be part of his life. They set up a fake wedding to pretend they were still involved. But he ended up in the hospital from stress, canceled everything the night before, and moved to another part of the country with his wife and her family, who embraced him and helped him get back on his feet when he refused the money his parents kept offering to control him. The parents are like ghosts now after being publicly humiliated. They care deeply about appearances and have only been invited to visit once, while the wife's parents live nearby and are close to the grandchildren. Their non-golden daughter also moved away, so the parents are basically on their own now. Story 36. Husband's sister is the favored child. It caused problems when she borrowed $200,000 to open a business and then lost interest, so it failed. They are not wealthy and it affected them financially for about 10 years. Don't worry though, as soon as the father-in-law recovered financially, he bought her a house because she cannot hold a job. This experience has made it clear that the sister will physically take care of them as they become feeble, so it is a win-win situation as far as we're concerned. Story 37. My parents are currently facing the consequences of their actions. They have always prioritized my sister, paying for private school while the others were bullied in state school. They expected very little help around the house while I cooked, cleaned, and cared for our disabled sibling. Because they spent so much on her schooling, they didn't have money for basic needs for me. I have worked and paid for my clothes, toiletries, and even school trips since I was 13. As an adult, They have provided endless childcare, which has enabled my sister and brother-in-law to travel for work, leading to promotions and pay rises. During this time, she frequently berated them, and I believe they are afraid of her. They wanted to give me money to help buy a house, but she objected, and they withdrew the offer. Their house was paid for by his parents. They are now beginning to need care, but I have told them to ask her because I am on an extremely low income and cannot afford unpaid leave. Story 38. My sister has always treated our mom like she's the hired help. Insulting, belittling, yelling. My mom was my sister's child care provider for all 3 kids. I'm not talking occasional babysitting. I'm talking full-time daycare provider for free. My mom stopped going out with her friends, stopped taking trips, and stopped seeing her sisters because she was the nanny. My sister would threaten to take the kids away and not let her see them if mom didn't follow her instructions exactly or if she tried to say no. How do I know these things? Because I have forever been my mom's best friend and therapist. Even after my mom's husband had a massive stroke, she still took care of the kids. After he was able to be at home, my mom was taking care of him and 2 little kids. She would call me in tears, upset over how my sister treated her and over how her husband was treating her. Since he had lost all filters after his stroke, she was back to watching the kids 2 weeks after her husband passed. I have no idea who cared for the kids during those 2 weeks that my sister granted mom to grieve, but mom was driving to my sister's house to care for them, rain or snow, early morning or late at night, driving 15 to 29 minutes to care for the kids. Now that mom needs help, my brother-in-law has stepped up. I simply refuse to. Mom paid for my sister's Bachelor of Arts and Master's degrees. She has helped pay medical expenses. She told me that my sister is her favorite. She provided free childcare. She let my sister verbally abuse her for decades. I've been the best friend, the therapist, holding her hand, making suggestions on what she should do to get out of the situation, and being ignored. She's been doing this to me since I was a child. No more. Enough of that noise. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.